You know what's fascinating? People think they can read you like an open book. They look at your face, your body language, your stillness, and they think they've got it all figured out. Oh, he's quiet, they say. He's weak. He's scared. They're so quick to label, so eager to slap their assumptions on you like a brand. But here's the thing. They don't see the storm inside. They don't realize that silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. It's patience. It's waiting for the perfect moment to strike while they're busy congratulating themselves for breaking you. Let me tell you something about silence. It's not empty space. No. It's loaded. Every second of it is a bullet in the chamber, a blade sharpened against the grindstone of their own arrogance. You sit there, unmoving, unflinching, and they mistake your calm for defeat. They think they've won because you haven't screamed, because you haven't thrown punches or hurled insults back at them. But oh, how wrong they are. Your silence is a weapon, sharper than any insult, deadlier than any blow. And the best part, they don't even know they're bleeding yet. People love noise, don't they? They thrive on it. The louder, the better. Shouting matches, dramatic gestures, over-the-top reactions, it's all just theater to them. A show. They want fireworks, explosions, anything to make them feel alive, important, powerful. And when you refuse to give them that, when you deny them the spectacle they crave, it drives them absolutely mad. Because deep down, they know something's off, something's missing. That void where their ego should be swelling with victory. Yeah, that's you. You're in there, lurking, watching, letting them dig their own grave with every word they throw at you. Here's the truth, and I'll lay it out nice and slow so it sinks in. When someone disrespects you, when they try to tear you down with their words or actions, they're not doing it because they're strong. No, they're doing it because they're scared. Scared of you. Scared of what you represent. See, strength doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to posture or puff itself up. Strength knows its place, knows its power, and doesn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. So when they come at you with their tantrums, their jabs, their little attempts to rattle you, they're showing their hand. They're telling you exactly who they are and, more importantly, who they aren't. Now, let's talk about control. Control is everything. Absolutely everything. When you stay silent in the face of disrespect, you're taking control. You're dictating the pace of the game, setting the rules without saying a word. They want chaos? Fine. Let them have it. Let them scream into the void while you stand there, steady as a mountain. Watch as their frustration builds. Watch as their certainty begins to crack. Why? Because they expected resistance. They wanted a fight, a reaction, something to feed their fragile egos. But instead, they got nothing. Just you, standing there, unshaken, unbothered, and that terrifies them. Think about it, what's scarier than someone who refuses to play by your rules? Someone who doesn't flinch when you push, who doesn't break when you hit, who doesn't cry when you cut. That's you. That's what you become when you embrace silence as your ally. You become untouchable, not because you're invincible, but because you've mastered the art of letting others destroy themselves. You let them spin their wheels, dig their trenches, build their wall saw, while you wait, patient and poised, for the moment when their foundation crumbles beneath them. And oh, how it will crumble. Every insult they hurl, every jab they take, every attempt to provoke you, all adds up. It piles on top of them like bricks, heavier and heavier, until they can barely breathe under the weight of their own insecurity. Because that's the thing about people who rely on disrespect to feel powerful. They're hollow, empty, all bark and no bite. Their words might sting if you let them, sure, but only if you give them permission. Only if you allow them to matter. And why would you do that? Why would you hand over your power to someone who doesn't deserve it? No, my friend, you keep that power for yourself. You hold onto it tightly, like a precious gem, and you let them squirm. Let them wonder. Let them obsess over why you're not reacting, why you're not breaking, why you're not giving them the satisfaction they so desperately crave. And trust me, they will obsess. They'll replay every interaction in their heads, searching for clues, trying to figure out what you're thinking, what you're planning. But they'll never find the answers, because the truth is simple. You're not planning anything, you're just existing, being, watching as they unravel themselves thread by thread. It's almost poetic, really, the way they self-destruct without you lifting a finger. One moment, they're strutting around like kings, convinced they've crushed you with their petty games. The next, they're questioning everything themselves, their choices, their very existence, and all because you didn't say a word. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that power? To reduce someone to rubble without ever raising your voice, without ever throwing a punch? That's the magic of silence. It's not passive, it's active. It's not weak, it's strong. It's not surrender, it's domination. But let's be clear, this isn't easy. There will be days when you want to snap. Days when their words cut deeper than you care to admit. Days when the urge to lash out feels almost unbearable. And that's okay. That's human. But remember this, giving in to that urge is exactly what they want. It's what they're banking on. They're counting on you to lose control, to explode, to give them the reaction they need to validate their own insecurities. Don't give it to them. Don't give them the satisfaction. Stay silent. Stay calm. Stay in control. Because here's the kicker, the longer you stay silent, the more desperate they become. The more they push, the harder they try to provoke you, the closer they get to losing it completely. And you just sit back and watch. Watch as their confidence wavers, as their bravado cracks, as their carefully constructed facade begins to collapse. It's mesmerizing, really. Like watching a house of cards fall apart piece by piece, And through it all, you remain untouched, unmoved, untouched. You know why? Because you've stripped them of their ammunition, their words, their insults, their attempts to belittle you. They're meaningless, hollow, empty. Without your reaction, they have nothing. No fuel for their fire, no validation for their insecurities, just silence. Cold, deafening silence. And that silence, it's killing them. Slowly, steadily, one heartbeat at a time. They may not realize it yet, but they're already losing, already falling apart. And you're just waiting for the inevitable. When the time comes, and it always does, you'll make your move. Not with anger, not with aggression, but with precision, with purpose. You'll strike when they least expect it, when they're most vulnerable, when their defenses are weakest. And it won't be loud or flashy or dramatic. No, it'll be subtle, calculated. A single word, a single action, delivered with such clarity and intent that it cuts deeper than any scream ever could. That's the beauty of playing the long game. You don't need to rush. You don't need to force anything. You just wait. Wait for the perfect moment. And when it arrives, you act. And then you walk away. Not because you're running, not because you're afraid, but because you've already won. You've already taken everything from them, their confidence, their pride, their sense of superiority. All that's left is the wreckage of their own making. And you're still standing, still calm, still in control. Because that's what silence does. It doesn't just protect you, it empowers you. It doesn't just shield you, it destroys them. So the next time someone tries to disrespect you, the next time they try to knock you down with their words or actions, remember this. You don't have to fight back. You don't have to scream. You don't have to do anything at all. Just smile. Let them wonder, let them worry, let them drive themselves crazy, trying to figure you out. And when they finally crumble under the weight of their own insecurities, when they finally realize that they never stood a chance against you, you'll still be there, quiet, still, untouched. Because silence isn't weakness. Silence is strength. Silence is power. And silence, my friend, is the deadliest weapon of all. But let's take this a step further, shall we? Because silence doesn't just work in moments of confrontation. No, it seeps into everything: relationships, negotiations, even war. The greatest victories in history weren't always won by those who shouted the loudest or struck first. They were won by those who knew when to hold back, when to wait, when to let the enemy reveal their own weaknesses. Think about it. In a relationship, the one who speaks less often holds the power. Why? Because they force the other person to fill the silence. They make them second guess, make them scramble for validation, make them question themselves. And in that questioning, the balance shifts. Suddenly, the one who was once sure of themselves starts to feel unstable, unsure. They wonder if they said too much, if they revealed too many of their own vulnerabilities while you sat there, impassive, letting them hand over the keys to their own mind. Silence does that. It forces people to deal with their own thoughts, their own insecurities. It turns the mirror back on them, makes them confront the things they'd rather ignore. That's why so many people fear it. They'll do anything to break it, to drown it out with words, with noise, with anything that stops them from having to sit alone with their own demons. But you don't fear silence. You own it. You let it settle into the space between you and them. Let it stretch out just long enough to make them squirm. And when you finally do speak, every word carries weight. Every syllable lands with precision because it isn't lost in the flood of meaningless chatter. And this works everywhere. In business, silence is negotiation. It's knowing that the first person to talk loses. It's watching the other side sweat while they try to fill the empty space with justification, with explanations, with concessions. It's the art of making them show their hand before you ever reveal yours. In war, silence is strategy. It's the general who doesn't rush into battle, who waits and watches, who lets the enemy exhaust themselves before delivering the final blow. It's patience, discipline, control. And in personal battles, silence is survival. It's knowing that not every insult needs an answer. Not every attack requires a counter. It's choosing your battles, knowing which ones are worth your energy and which ones will resolve themselves without you lifting a finger. Because here's the truth, some fights aren't worth it. Some people aren't worth it. There will always be those who want to drag you down, who poke and prod and push, desperate to get a reaction out of you. Let them try. Let them wear themselves out. Let them tire themselves with their noise while you remain steady. Because the moment they realize they can't move you, they lose their power over you. And when you do choose to respond, make it count. See, the best part about mastering silence is that when you finally break it, when you finally speak or act, it lands like an earthquake. It's unexpected. It's devastating. It's final. A single sentence can end a war. A single look can silence a room. A single action can shift the entire balance of power. And that's why silence is the most dangerous weapon of all. Because it's not just the absence of words, it's the presence of control. It's the difference between reacting and responding, between being ruled by emotion and ruling with intent. So the next time someone tests you, the next time they try to bait you into their little game, smile. Let them talk. Let them rant and rave and convince themselves that they've won. And then, when the moment is right, when the silence has stretched just long enough, remind them, without raising your voice, without breaking your composure, that you were never playing by their rules to begin with. And that's why they never stood a chance. They'll tell you that silence is weakness. that it's a lack of confidence, a lack of presence. They'll tell you that to be heard, you have to be loud. That power belongs to those who shout the hardest, push the farthest, demand the most attention. But that's what they want to believe, because the truth terrifies them. The truth is that real power doesn't need to announce itself. Real power doesn't beg to be noticed. It simply exists, steady and unshaken, while the rest of the world scrambles to make sense of it. People expect reactions. They rely on them. They push, they prod, they test you, not because they're strong, but because they need to know they still have control. And nothing unravels them faster than realizing they don't. Because when they lash out and all they get in return is silence, they have nothing to hold on to. No fuel, no validation, no proof that they've won. Just emptiness stretching out before them like a void they're too afraid to step into. That's what drives them mad. The uncertainty, the not knowing, the realization that no matter how hard they try, they can't get under your skin. It's almost amusing watching them try to make sense of it. At first they're smug, convinced they've rattled you, that you have nothing to say because they've beaten you down. But when the silence lingers, when you remain unaffected, something shifts. Their confidence wavers, their smirks falter, doubt creeps in, slow and insidious, eating away at their certainty. Maybe they didn't win, maybe they miscalculated. Maybe, just maybe, they've made a mistake. And once that thought takes root, it spreads like wildfire. Because they start to wonder, if you're not reacting, then what are you doing? Are you planning something? Are you waiting for the right moment? Are you letting them walk straight into their own downfall without them even realizing it? And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to do a damn thing. They destroy themselves. Their own insecurities, their own arrogance, their own desperate need for control, it all turns against them. They unravel thread by thread until they're left standing in the wreckage of their own making, wondering how it all went so wrong. And you're still there, untouched, unbothered, unmoved, because you knew something they didn't. Silence is never empty. It is never passive. It is never powerless. It is a choice, a statement, a weapon. The best part, they'll never see it coming. They'll keep expecting you to break, to snap, to finally give them what they've been waiting for. And when that moment never comes, they won't know what to do with themselves. They'll keep pushing, keep testing, keep throwing everything they have at you, and with every failure, their frustration will grow, until finally, they're the ones who break. They're the ones who snap. And when that happens, you won't even need to lift a finger. But silence isn't just a tool for confrontation. It's bigger than that. It's deeper. It's about control, not just over them, but over yourself. Because the truth is, most people don't know how to sit with silence. They fill every space with noise, with distractions, with anything that keeps them from having to face what's underneath. But when you master silence, when you learn to embrace it, you gain something most people never will: clarity. You start to see the world for what it really is. You see people for who they really are. You notice the things they try to hide, the cracks in their armor, the lies they tell themselves to sleep at night. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start moving differently. You stop wasting energy on meaningless battles. Stop getting caught up in things that don't matter. You learn the difference between power and noise, between strength and bravado, between control and the illusion of it. Because control isn't about domination. It isn't about forcing people to bend to your will. It's about knowing yourself so completely, so absolutely, that nothing and no one can shake you. It's about moving through the world with purpose, with intention, with the unshakable certainty that you are exactly where you need to be. And when you operate from that place, everything changes. You stop reacting. You start observing. You stop wasting time on people who drain you. You start surrounding yourself with those who understand the value of stillness, of patience, of precision. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone because you already know who you are. And that terrifies people, because most of them don't. They're used to people being predictable. They expect patterns. They expect noise, movement, emotional outbursts. They know how to deal with those things, how to manipulate them, how to turn them into weaknesses. But when you take all of that away, when you remove the easy tells, the obvious reactions, you become unreadable, unpredictable, dangerous. And nothing is more dangerous than someone who can't be controlled. That's why silence is so powerful, because it forces the world to move around you instead of the other way around. It makes people come to you, wonder about you, try to figure you out. And in that wondering, that uncertainty, they give you more than they ever intended. They show you who they really are, what they really fear, what they really want. And you just sit back and take it all in. Because silence is more than a weapon. It's a foundation. A way of moving through life with complete control, with absolute confidence. It's the difference between being ruled by the chaos around you and standing still while the storm rages on. And when you master that, when you learn to wield silence with the same precision as a blade, there's nothing and no one that can touch you.